My first drink, I think, was a can of Guinness that I kind of stole um, when my parents were having a party, and it was horrible.
I think I was about 22 or something like that. I think it could have been wine, I'm not sure.
When I got drunk on my 18th birthday, I got drunk on rum and black corn, and to this day, even the smell of rum and black corn is disgusting.
Ireland has always had a thing about drink. So whether it be alcohol or other types of liquids, it always has had a thing about drink. So if you go back into Ireland's past, like deep past, we had a strong tradition of hospitality and hospitality rights. So if you were invited to somebody's home, that host used to kind of offer you milk. And if you as a host couldn't give a person milk, like you were seen as a bad host. Gradually then people started brewing alcohol in Ireland. So you had things like ale and then whiskey. And so the milk then began to become replaced, and you had whiskey being offered instead. So what happened was when you'd come to somebody's house, they'd offer you whiskey or ale or whatever. And I think there's a little part of that maybe that's kind of continued on. We have a drinking culture in Ireland, so young people see it as being acceptable and normal. So if they see adults drinking, well then why couldn't they drink too?
Young people probably drink from a very young age, maybe like 13 or 14 sometimes.
Probably around age 15 or 16.
I think I was actually 14 and I had a Smirnoff Ice.
Young people now are drinking from like as early as the age of 12 and in some cases younger. But I think the average age for kind of first time maybe a young person might use alcohol is usually around kind of 14 or 15. And then regular use increases kind of with age, if you know what I mean. So the older a young person gets, the greater the likelihood of them drinking.
I think it's much more acceptable now for young people to drink. Not that I'm that old, but when I was a teenager, it wasn't as common. It wasn't commonplace. It wasn't a thing that young people do every weekend because we didn't have alcohol available to us like young people do now. A lot of pressure on young people, and I think a lot of it comes from their peer group and from the people that they hang around with. And I think at this stage we're kind of at the point in our culture where it's not really acceptable for a young person not to be involved in alcohol and not to be consuming alcohol at regular occasions.
Groups of young people that I'd work with, right, peer pressure seems to be huge, and I think young people think that they certainly feel that often they can't socialise without drinking. You know, they stand out if they go to a party and they're the ones that doesn't drink. So I think there is a huge social pressure and a peer pressure for young people to drink, particularly in kind of social settings, you know. And I think young people as well also put pressures on themselves. So sometimes people don't say anything to them, but they might feel like they'll fit in if they do what the other people are doing, you know what I mean? So, but I think, yeah, peer pressure is huge. People wouldn't do it unless there was some enjoyment to it, some enjoyment element to it. But I suppose the problem is in Ireland, and in many other places too, is that we don't often know when to stop.
Young people abuse alcohol. Yeah, they do, because they're so overexposed to it, because it's acceptable in their culture, because young people think it's the done thing. And it's not only, they can't do moderation, they don't know what moderation is. And it's because it's kind of underhanded and because it's not legal for them to do so or to be involved in it, that they can't moderate it, and they can't do it to a certain level or introduce it slowly. It's either all or nothing.
The binge drinking culture is a worry. But it's dangerous. I mean, you lose inhibitions. I think people forget their own name when they're drunk.
Some people, I'd say, drink too much, and Ireland probably doesn't have a good reputation for drink.
Well, yeah, you always see, like, if you go out to town and stuff, you always see the odd young person, like, in a hoop on the ground getting sick on himself and stuff.
I think young people are drinking the wrong things. I think they're uneducated about what's actually in it, the levels of alcohol and so on. And I think it's become trendy to drink to get drunk.
In the job that I do, you'd see students at all different levels. You'd see them first thing on a Monday morning and you'd see them progress through the week. It's obvious among some of our senior students that on a Monday morning that they would still be suffering, I suppose, from the negative effects of alcohol. They're not able to cope with it.
I've heard stories about people and they drink too much and then bad stuff happens during the night. I had a friend and he drank way too much and he was staggering around the place. He could barely stand and we had to try and hold him up.
Stupid decisions they do when they start drinking. They come tipsy, they do stupid stuff. I don't know, teenage pregnancies.
Yeah, we get them the weekend, like, I mean, especially young girls and young fellas when they're in on the bus. They don't want to pay, they get sick, and you never get paid the sickness fee on it, so what can I say? Don't drink.
Drinking leads on to other consequences and negative effects for young people. So stuff like the antisocial behaviour, getting in trouble, you know, maybe having a run-in with guards or with the law, and I suppose doing things that they wouldn't normally do if they weren't under the influence of alcohol. I suppose we've all been there when we wake up the next morning and think, oh God, why did I do that? Or you know, why did I behave that way? And I think that even though some people who have a bit more experience might be able to deal with that, I think young people find it very difficult. And it's not just you know, the event that happens, but it's the repercussions of that further down the line in terms of their relationships that they have and their place in the community as well.